Okay, welcome to the Startup and Grow podcast, where we talk about the issues around starting and growing your business and give you smart strategies to help you create a business you can actually be proud of. I'm Kathryn Aragon, and I am co-hosting with Luke Tillman-Young. I have done a lot with content marketing and writing. If you followed Crazy Egg at all, you probably saw me there. I was a managing editor for 2.5 years. I'm just starting a new gig managing consulting.com, and I work with Ahrefs and other clients to help them create content that will actually grow their business. So Luke, tell us about yourself.
Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. I'm Luke Tillman-Young, as Katie said, and I've been doing internet marketing since 2009 when I graduated college. It was kind of a necessity there in the Great Recession because there weren't a lot of jobs there. So kind of make it or die type environment. So I was born in fire, but I started with affiliate marketing, doing SEO, eventually ventured into paid campaigns, Facebook, Google AdWords, and basically been working on that ever since. Really exciting. I love building businesses from the ground up, taking an idea and making it something. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years now. And I'm just excited to share what I know and help other people who were like me when I first started. So that's going to be great. But this is going to be a great podcast. I think Startup and Grow is exactly what I wish I had when I first started. And so I'm excited to create something that if I could go back in time and give this to myself, I know it wouldn't have taken me 7 years to get here. So, and that's the goal, something I can kind of wish I could time travel back to myself. But this is something we're going to do weekly, and we hope that, it offers you information and ideas and implementation, and not just big ideas, but actual, money-making techniques that we can use in order to help you grow your business and start it up.
Yeah, and I think we can add a lot of value because, Luke, you're the startup master. You have actually just in the last year started how many businesses?
Oh boy, I don't know if this is embarrassing or something I should be proud of, but I have started a couple of different businesses that have been doing well. Let's see. There's my carriage booking company, flower company, so I think 4 businesses. It kind of gets hard to keep track of. So
after a while, you just have so many, right?
Well, that's kind of the point of it, is that I can forget about businesses that I have, because the whole point behind building a business isn't that we're creating another job for ourselves, that we're creating automated systems. And so really, if you do it right, you just have to check once a month when you get that deposit into your bank account. So
I think that's a really good point. And so, yeah, I mean, we've got the startup master here with Luke, and my focus has always been on growth. And especially right now, there's almost no better tactic than content marketing. And done right, the trouble is you can't just create content to create content. That's stupid. And it's a waste of your time and energy because it isn't easy. But if you're strategic about it and if you apply the right tactics, then yeah, I mean, you can grow a business and get it, build name recognition, build authority super fast, and even drive people to those sales. So, what Luke focuses on a lot of is automation. And automation plays into what I do, but content is not an automated thing.
I agree with you. I think content is probably more important now more than ever. I'm back at 2009. It wasn't really the beginning of the internet, but we were kind of where we are on our way. Facebook had just come out. It's been 3 years since Facebook came out. But when you first started making websites, really you could throw anything up and it would rank well. And it was just, if you threw something up, odds are it was probably one of the only things regarding that topic online at the time. And so now we have, I think it's over 100,000 domain names are being registered every single day. And so I think our knowledge on the internet is doubling every 6 months as well. And so there's so much out there. In order to distinguish yourself, it's not just writing something and putting it on a website. Really, what Katie specializes in, and what I still have a lot to learn from her as well, is how to actually use that content to grow your business. And that is invaluable. I know I struggle with that too, and that's a weak point for me as well, is how do you write content that's convincing, that kind of guides the user through a process. It's more than just getting somebody to your website. You have to do something with them. You have to provide value so they keep coming back.
Exactly. And I think that's a really good point. It's about, and interestingly, in order to do what I do, you have to have the right foundation. So the same skills and the same strategies apply, whether it's a startup or a growth tactic that you're after. And if you do the startup side right, you've got all that foundational stuff ready for the growth tactics that you're ready to implement. So it's real interesting how, I mean, in my mind, startup and grow is the ideal combination of ideas. Because, I mean, who's going to start a business and not try to grow it?
Exactly. I was reading a book by Jay Abrams, and he said that your only mode should be growth, and that if you've stalled out, then you're already started dying. And
Wow.
so, yeah, it was just really like mind blowing. Like, of course, like if you're not growing, then what are you doing? Then your competition's taking more business from you. So having that growth mindset and that growth strategy should be one of the pillars of your business. So starting up and growing, which fits our bill quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that we noticed coming out this election was that there was a huge push on these fake news sites that were coming out, and it went for both directions on both sides of the table, conservatives, liberals. They were news sites that published content that they knew that their base that they were targeting would like and share, and it kind of reinforces the whole echo chamber. That's a phrase we've been hearing a lot since the elections, that everybody's like, how did this happen? We thought we were going to win. How did this happen? We thought we were going to lose. And the phrase is echo chamber. People are hearing the same thing over and over again. And so several fake news sites, networks of them, have popped up, and basically they just tell lies to a target demographic. They tell you, I mean, it's clever. It's kind of the dark side of content marketing when you really think about it, because they tell you what you want to hear. And so it validates your own opinion. I think you were saying this earlier. You commented on one of my Facebook posts where, I was up in arms, like, how could this be possible? Blah, blah, blah. And you were like, well, it just validates what you're saying already, like when you want to believe. And so I think Facebook made $15 billion off of fake news sites during this election cycle, which completely eclipsed the amount that CNN has made, that Fox News has made. So the biggest winner in this election has been Facebook, which is really interesting.
Better even than Trump, huh?
Yeah, better than Trump. I mean, I think that's more money than Trump has, maybe. So
maybe. Yeah. No, I mean, it's fascinating to me. I mean, first, it's appalling that people are creating fake news and getting attention and winning this game with fake stuff. But it's fascinating because that it just tells us all the more what we need to understand as marketers. And that is that people are not looking to be persuaded. They're looking for validation of what they already believe. So all of our messaging, if we will follow the trend, not with fake news, but with understanding and writing from the perspective of where people already are, we can win the game too.
Sure.
But my concern as a content marketer is I look at these fake sites and I think, oh my goodness, they're eroding trust, which makes our job all the harder.
Sure.
Because any claim we make has to be validated now, and it needs to be validated with very reputable information, very credible information.
Gotcha.
Because we're not believable, because people are getting so used to their newsfeed filling up with junk and fake stuff. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, really, you make a good point. When you're selling something, you want to validate the person's internal belief. But then I guess my question is, at what point in time does actually educating the customer, how do you present that and not go against what they believe? Like, for instance, the weight loss niche. I mean, everybody wants to, I think, if you ask me, I've tried everything in the book that I can to lose weight, but in the back of my mind, I know that I eat too much food. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And so, but I don't want to be told I eat too much food. I want somebody to understand my struggle and know what I've been going through. And so how does that work when it comes to content marketing, and I guess kind of persuading your reader that yes, you can identify with them, but there is a better way? How do you do that?
That is a really, really good question. And I think first we have to understand that there are two aspects. You've got the messaging in your sales copy, and that goes one way. And then you've got your educational stuff, trying to get people to understand the issues around the topic. And that's more what we do before the sales page in other pieces of content, let's say on the blog. And you can come at it from both directions. Like Dan Kennedy used to talk about as strategy for your sales page, you would want to validate people's beliefs. It's not your fault. It's not that you're eating too much. It's this other problem, and I can help you solve that problem. Now, you want to, again, you also want to do that credibly, but in the landing page, you're definitely wanting to validate people's ideas and draw them in there. But you'll also refer to this other stuff, and that is, there's more to it than that. But if you've laid the foundation in your articles on your blog, then that gets so much easier. And there you're going to talk about, you know, the number one problem, or you're going to talk about, you know, different research studies that you found, and you're going to bring up all the issues around it, which will help people understand that, okay, maybe I do eat too much, but maybe there's a reason where it doesn't feel like I'm to blame.
Sure.
And then they're more willing to click through to your sales page.
Gotcha. So you're kind of tiptoeing around, I guess, people's egos.
Yes.
And respect it a little bit. And really, it just comes down to respect, because nobody, like, you have to think about it as an in-person conversation. I'm not going to come straight. Somebody like a fitness trainer can't come straight up to me and say, "Hey, Luke, you're fat." You know, like he says, "Hey, so what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, you said it." Somebody told me, "Hey," like I went to a trainer and he said, "Hey, Luke, I noticed that you sit at your desk all day long. Maybe you should move more." And I was much more receptive to that type of, I guess, open critique, because number one, it was understanding, and number two, it was a solution that was presented afterwards. And so,
and I think that's a really good point, because that topic would make a really good piece of content. And it helps take the blame off of, it's not my self-control issue. It's that I work at a desk, and
right,
I'm going to have a bigger struggle because of that.
Sure.
So sometimes it's that kind of thing. But yeah, I like your word, understanding them and respecting them, because empathy is a big issue in everything we do. We have to like our customers, and we have to respect and empathize with them. And if we don't, we're not going to be able to create the messaging that resonates with them.
Sure.
So yeah, it boils down to understanding, what are your struggles? Why is weight loss hard? And how can I help you in advance before I take you to my sales page?
Right.
And then again, the sales page has got to be super empathetic, but also starting with where people are right now.
Sure.
So yeah, alleviate the guilt.
Alleviate the guilt and address it slowly, I guess.
Right.
It's kind of like a sideways sales pitch in a sense. I mean, so that's really interesting. So another thing that I noticed with these fake news is that it does reinforce, it's the echo chamber again, and it does reinforce stereotypes. It does, when people believe what they want to believe, you see the propagation of fake news stories. So a lot of these fake news agencies just went to like a pro-Trump forum or a pro-Hillary forum and said something horrible about the other party, and then that began just to populate and like spin off thousands of shares, tens of thousands of likes. And so I just find it really interesting. Like, we talk about checking our sources, but that's not our first inclination. Our first inclination is to hit like and share. And I think that's the biggest struggle that we have moving forward, is how do we fact check these sources? I mean, we have, when you search for something, you have Wikipedia, you have one source, Wikipedia or about.com, or these, you know, generic encyclopedia websites. So it's just getting harder and harder in the information age to actually fact check our sources in a, you know, an open and unobjective opinion. So it's just, that's a struggle for me, because when you see something that you like with the article I shared on Facebook, I was like, yeah, they're right. And you pointed out, hey, you're feeding directly into that machine, because they're telling you what to like and what the other side is doing wrong. And so that's something I noticed myself today. It's just crazy how easily manipulated we are by fake news. And as, you know, as business owners, we almost have a responsibility to not do that and to set a higher standard, because like you mentioned before, it is almost ruining our reputation as marketers and content marketers and business owners, because we're eroding our trust. And so now it's almost, we're pushing a boulder uphill, because nobody trusts us anymore. And if you have a fake news site that looks like a real news site or a real blog, then they all get lumped in together and thrown out with the bathwater. And so,
well, and now that's a good point too, because those fake news sites, the article you shared today was, it only had the one article on it, but they created the entire template to look authentic, even though it wasn't. So it's one of the reasons we need to be developing content, and lots of it, because no fake business, no fake news site is going to create multiple pieces of content, and a piece of content, let's say every week or every month, you know, around their core topic.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's so many signals for trust, and we need to hit a lot of them, if not all of them, as a way to counteract this trend.
Sure.
And yeah, so the mindset has to be on growth from day one.
Right.
And whatever that looks like for you, that's what you've got to do.
Got
For
it.
me, that was content.
Sure.
Content from day one. But this new site that I'm working with, consulting.com, he's
Hmm.
been in business for I don't know how many years, maybe 5 years or so, but he's only just now beginning his blog. So it's not like you have to use content. It's just a really, really good one.
Yeah, and the blog works for you while you're sleeping, gets shared around,
Mm-hmm.
liked, and it's almost like a window into the business operator's mind and like the ethos and I guess their mission statement of the company, because you get to see their landing page and their excellently crafted copy. But when you have a blog that's getting posted multiple times a week, it's kind of like an unfiltered view because they don't get to have as many fingers on it
Right.
as you would normally see. And so they're churning out more content. And so it's less filtered and more pure, I would say, to the.
And yeah, it's less, or not less, it's harder to call those businesses spam businesses.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously they care enough to invest all this time into free stuff,
Right.
free content, free information, free advice. And that's what I get commented on most, I think, is people come to me and say, your free stuff is better than what I pay for somewhere else.
Hmm.
And that's a high, high compliment. And I try really hard to maintain that standard.
Sure.
But
I like the word you used earlier, trust. And basically, a blog builds trust, and you can build trust with your brand, from what I'm hearing you say, from talking about your industry, from positioning yourself as an expert. And so I guess you go from being commentary to becoming an expert on the topic as well. And by building trust with your audience can learn how to trust you. They can see the quality content you're putting out. Right? Is that what you're saying is the best way to battle fake news? Is just really putting out great quality content that not only converts, obviously we talk about conversion, a lot of people think that translates into dollar signs, and it does, but I feel like one of the stops along the way is trust. So conversion into trust is a huge deal. And
right,
that's really a huge metric that, it's not really measurable immediately with dollars, but eventually it can be.
right.
But I think we should have trust conversion metrics if we could do
Well,
something
and
like that.
really subscribing is that.
That's true. That
Because
would be a great indicator. Yeah.
yeah, and so you have a lot of micro conversions on the way to the sales conversion. And one might be leaving a comment on the blog.
Mm.
You won't do that again if it isn't a trustworthy site. Maybe sharing the content with your friends. Although, as we see on Facebook, the fake ones get shared quite a bit.
Sure.
But subscribing so I can send you more of my stuff,
Hmm.
that's a huge trust signal.
Okay.
And a really good one that then sets you up to be able to market to them for sales.
That's a great point. I never thought of measuring subscriptions as a trust metric, and I guess it really is an indication because I've been trying the zero inbox thing and it has been failing miserable. I get hundreds of emails every day.
I
And
don't do zero. No.
I wish I could. I just don't know how these guys. I don't think I made enough money to be able to ignore people yet. So I think.
Right. And frankly, because I'm a content creator, I want my inbox filled with stuff that I can go back to and reference later. That's
Sure.
what the links to the sales pages are that I can go look at.
I'm with you. That's why I don't use an ad blocker. I love seeing ads. I'm like, now they're targeting me. That's awesome. I'm going to use it.
Another picture in my swipe file.
Exactly. I have a folder on my Dropbox called Good Facebook Ads, and basically I just grab a screenshot of an ad whenever I see something I like.
Yes, my iPad is full of them.
That's great. So that's just really interesting. I like the way you put it. So that is a trust metric. When you conversion to trust metric, I guess there's so many different signals that we have: subscription, sharing on Facebook, liking. I mean, I guess we can value the subscription, the trust value. So like a subscription would be a higher value versus a like share. And so it's really interesting because you don't think of those metrics as trust. At least I don't. And so I'm glad you brought that up. So I definitely learned something here, kind of turned another brain in my brain. So thank you for that.
Well, another thing, and this is coming from me as the editor of blogs, and that is I have a whole lot of writers who submit articles that they're presenting opinion as fact. And that is a huge problem. in my opinion, that's going to build distrust.
Hmm.
It's like, you really do need to go find a source. If you're going to state an opinion as fact, you need to back it up. And that takes it from opinion to fact, actually. But if you're going to state opinion, make it clear that it's your opinion. If you're going to state a fact, back it up.
Sure.
And that's just another way that you can add trust elements with that. No, you can't measure, but it's you being proactive in the front end.
Gotcha. And that's, I guess, when you think about other forms of advertising, like you think of TV commercials, like heartburn medicine, the doctor in the white jacket with the stethoscope on. I'm Dr. such and such, and I approve this message, and my patients use this, and I use this, and it just adds another. I guess that's the equivalent of having a source for your article.
Right.
Would be that professional recommendation, so it lends credibility to what you're saying. So
exactly, yeah. And sometimes it'll be a quote from a respected authority in our field. Sometimes it'll be a statistic from some study I dug up.
Sure.
And yeah, so I collect studies, I collect landing pages, I collect all that stuff because I can use it in everything I do. And so, yeah, I mean, that's part of what we do. We need to always have our eyes open. And I think we need to be evaluating, why do I trust this or why do I not trust this? And watching how people jump on these fake news sites, because if they're jumping on it, it's because it substantiates some belief of theirs.
Sure.
And it helps us to know what that is, because that can guide our messaging.
Sure.
But ultimately, we need to be above that.
Sure. I agree. I equate it to using the dark side of the force.
I like that. That's huge.
Highly effective, but still the dark side.
That's right. Yeah. So what interested me about that article is that he was a Democrat and was creating content that actually hurt Hillary.
Sure.
The election. And now he's talking about, well, maybe I'll quit this, but I enjoy it so much.
Well, it's just really interesting because at the end of the day, and we really see the real motivator behind it. And I think he started it in order to kind of troll these, conservative groups. And he was like, wow, this is really profitable. And so, I mean, it really is back to not to kill it, but back to the dark side analogy. It's like, it's super powerful. And yes, you can profit from it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to being an ethical marketer and having an ethical business. And you could tell there was some cognitive dissonance in the way he responded to the questions by the interviewer. And he justified it in a weird way that didn't really feel congruent with what he was saying. And so don't go to the dark side, basically.
If you want to grow your business,
right,
stay in the light.
Right. And, he did mention that, I mean, this is the worst case scenario, but there have been threats against him and his family. And so he abused the trust that readers have in writers. And there are consequences for that. Yes, he might make a lot of money, but at the end of the day, does the pros outweigh the cons? And for me, threats against my family, you can't put a dollar amount on not having that. So
exactly. Yeah. So, definitely, I think our bottom line, our takeaway is, yes, you want to use content, and you want to use content to build trust, and you want to make sure that any claim you make is trustworthy. So you are above all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating trend, and it's like, I don't like it, but at the same time, it's making the wheels turn in my head, as making a lot of insights, like, I don't know, things that maybe I knew, that it's like putting them in a different light where they make more sense to me.
Exactly. It's like those psychology studies where they're like, if a rat's thirsty, it needs water. And you're like, well, obviously, but you didn't really think about it until somebody actually showed it to you. And it's something you knew all the time, but now you actually have. Now you can go back and quote that study and say, hey, if a rat's thirsty, it needs water.
Yeah, or use it as an example.
Okay.
Case, yeah. So
yeah.
Fascinating trend.
I think so too, and a lot to learn. And I agree with you that we can take a lot of different lessons away from this and really look at the underlying impact of fake news from a good side and a bad side. So yeah, there was great stuff there.
Cool. Well, this is kind of what we're going to be doing in our podcast overall. So we, kind of a what's on our mind, and just a conversation. You're going to get to see how Luke and I think about these things in relation to starting and growing a business. And sometimes we come away with an answer, sometimes we won't. Sometimes it's just something we need to think about and process and how it applies to our own businesses.